Happy Pride. It's gonna be fun to say this every day I make a video. This time the video is about a relatively new character of mine, Risso. Risso is named after Risso's dolphin, and as you can see on screen, he is omnisexual / a gay man. Considering those are two separate identities, it might be confusing as to why I put the both of them on here, but there is a reason, I swear. When I originally made him, Risso was going to be omni because he was going to be attracted to both men and women. But as time has gone on, I've eliminated the attraction he had towards a woman, so now the only romance you see him having in the story is one with a man. Of course, because the narrative isn't told in his perspective, he could have other feelings towards people of different genders, but I've never really explored that, so his romance with a man is the only romance that stands. Now, he still could be omni. He doesn't need a romance with every gender to be called that. However, there's also no harm in just labeling him as gay. Nothing contradicts the label in terms of his romances, and could actually complicate things between him and one of the other characters that he has certain relations with. This is a good thing. Another label that I've toyed with giving him, but haven't officially, seeing as it's not labeled or drawn here, is asexual. This one isn't something I need to give him, as you mostly wouldn't be able to tell whether or not he was asexual in the narrative. I have no reason for making him asexual, not that there needs to be. It was just going to be a thing that he and the rest of his friends shared, including Jord and his partner. Within the story, Risso gets into a romantic relationship with a human boy during his second year of high school. People in the story already don't like witches, so the relationship is up to scrutiny amongst their peers, even the witch ones, and on top of that, it's the 1970s. People are also just homophobic, extra homophobic in this case. So much so that Risso's boyfriend, I don't have a name for him, snaps and breaks up with him one day as they're walking down the hallway together. He very loudly denounces the fact that he's gay and says something along the lines of Risso being a horrible person that threatened him into being in a relationship with him. People don't really care about that last part, and while he doesn't get harassed like he did when he was with Risso, he is shunned from society and people refuse to interact with him. He does eventually get a wife once he's out of school, however, but he's haunted almost every day by what he yelled that day. Whether that be because of how he publicly confessed to being in a relationship with a man and a witch, or because of what he did to Risso is up to interpretation. Not much else in the story has to do with Risso's sexuality, and the one thing that does will be discussed in another video, because it has to do with two of my other characters more than it has to do with him, and also because it's better to have the pieces of their stories first before looking at what it's supposed to make. Compared to my other characters, Risso has a relatively tame backstory and just general life. He lived with his loving, alive mother and father until he was 6 years old. It was at this point when his parents got a divorce. Don't get me started on how well this worked out in the 1960s, I don't know. His mother had fallen out of love with his father and found herself miserable in the relationship, so she broke it off. Against all normal conventions, Risso ended up in full custody of his father. His mother, while she cared for him, couldn't physically find herself able to take care of him for the reasons of both her mental unwellness and also Risso was not fit to travel north to the coast where she was planning on staying. Thankfully for Risso, he adored his father, so he had no problem with the arrangement. Unfortunately, however, about a year or so after the divorce, Risso's father became very ill and died. You might think, oh well, very sad, they'll just take him up to his mother or whoever is next in the line of custody, but no. Well, technically yes, but not in the way that you would think. See, the school that he goes to, commonly referred to as the academy, is one of the legal guardians of all of the children that attend it. So when Risso's father died, the academy essentially stepped into the line of custody between him and his mother, and they took him to live on school grounds with maybe 1 or 2 other children that lived there. You don't get to know those children, because neither Risso nor Jord really cares to mention them beyond a few brief remarks, but they're not important anyway, so it doesn't matter. As a character, Risso is very stuck on the past. He holds grudges for a lifetime and will tell anyone he meets that his mother cheated on his father with a human man. She didn't, but she did end up marrying a human, and that his father died because of it, because Risso's incredibly bitter about it. Now that I've gotten the main points about Risso said and done, I want to just point out the little gills on his neck. In my OC's world, there are witches that can manipulate certain elements, either water, fire, earth or air. Yes, I know it's basic. No, I don't really care. I've gone too far in revolving the world around those 4 elements to change anything. They're going to stay like that. Each of the elements has an animal attached to them that grants them a feature similar to that animal. Water witches, like Risso, have gills on their neck and are also capable of drinking and living in salt and freshwater as they're based on pink salmon. Njord is an earth witch and is based on a chameleon, I think. I'd have to check, but basically the ends of his limbs are supposed to have a slight green tint to them that I forgot to draw along with his white eyelashes. I'll get to what the other two elements animals are within the next 3 videos, but to give a hint, they're specific kinds of animals, not a broad group like fish. That's not really a hint, but oh well. Anyways, onto some fun facts about Risso, I guess, because I took forever to draw him. Probably comes with me hating this drawing a lot less than I did Njord's. Fun fact 1, Risso looked very different when I first drew him. I know to some people that's typical, but I normally keep the designs of my OCs the same even years later. Like one of the other people I'm going to draw, at least in her early years, is a carbon copy of how she looked 4 or 5 years ago. Here that drawing is. Thank gosh for Picrew, because man, I hate this. Fun fact 2, Risso was also called a femboy by one of my friends. I'm pretty sure I know which one because she calls any man with long hair a femboy. She's horrible at telling genders. I love her, but oh man, she's challenged in that department. Fun fact number 3, Risso was created for the purpose of being someone's father. I did a rough sketch of him in my Spanish notebook and that's how he was spawned. You'll see more of his child later. And fun fact 4, Risso's greatest fear is of cats. He actually has an intense phobia of cats after he had a bad experience with them when he was around 3 or 4 years old. That's all I had to say about Risso. I hope you all have a good day, week, month, and year, if you took AP exams, because those scores come out in almost a month's time. Then I hope you did well on them. Goodbye.